The message arrived on a rainy Thursday evening, carrying nothing more than a name, an address, and a date. To everyone else it looked like an ordinary blind date invitation, but hidden behind it was years of bitterness, revenge, and quiet cruelty. His ex-wife smiled as she pressed send, believing she had found the perfect way to humiliate the man she still blamed for her own unhappiness. She thought pairing a hard-working black single father with a deaf woman would become the joke everyone laughed about for weeks. She expected awkward silence, embarrassment, and another reason to tell people that he would always be a failure. What she never imagined was that one simple act of kindness would expose her own heart instead of his, changing several lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is stronger than cruelty and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. Every act of support helps us continue bringing heartwarming stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Marcus Johnson had spent the last 6 years rebuilding a life that had fallen apart almost overnight. His marriage had ended with painful arguments, empty promises, and custody papers that left him raising his 8-year-old daughter Amara almost entirely on his own. While many people admired his strength, few understood the sacrifices hidden behind his gentle smile. Every morning began before sunrise as he prepared breakfast, braided his daughter's hair after watching countless online tutorials, packed lunches, and hurried to his construction management job before school started. Every evening was filled with homework, laundry, cooking, bedtime stories, and quiet moments wondering whether he was enough for the little girl who depended on him for everything. There were nights when exhaustion nearly defeated him, but every time Amara wrapped her tiny arms around him and whispered that he was the best dad in the world, he found the strength to keep moving. His ex-wife, Vanessa, lived a very different life. She blamed Marcus for every disappointment she experienced after their divorce, refusing to admit her own choices had played a role. She surrounded herself with people who enjoyed gossip more than truth, and over time she developed a habit of mocking Marcus whenever she had the chance. Hearing that he had refused several blind dates because he wanted to protect his daughter from unstable relationships irritated her. She wanted him embarrassed. She wanted him reminded that happiness belonged to everyone except him. When Vanessa learned about Evelyn Carter through a mutual acquaintance, she immediately saw an opportunity. Evelyn was deaf since birth, worked as an art therapist, and lived a peaceful, independent life. Instead of seeing an intelligent and compassionate woman, Vanessa cruelly reduced her to nothing more than the punchline of a joke. She secretly arranged the meeting, convinced Marcus would walk away the moment he realized Evelyn could not hear him. Saturday arrived with clear skies and warm sunshine. Marcus almost canceled because Amara had caught a mild cold earlier in the week, but after his mother insisted on watching her for the afternoon, he reluctantly drove to the small neighborhood cafe where the meeting had been arranged. He expected nothing more than polite conversation before returning home. Across the room sat Evelyn, quietly sketching in a notebook while waiting. She noticed Marcus enter and greeted him with the warmest smile he had seen in years. Before he even reached the table, she gently pointed toward a small card explaining that she communicated through American Sign Language and written notes if needed. Marcus paused for only a second, not because she was deaf, but because he realized how much courage it must have taken to meet a complete stranger knowing so many people judged her before learning who she truly was. Instead of feeling uncomfortable, Marcus smiled back, picked up a pen, introduced himself on a napkin, and apologized for not knowing sign language. Evelyn laughed silently, her eyes shining with kindness, and wrote that patience was always a wonderful beginning. For the next 2 hours they communicated through notes, phone messages, facial expressions, and shared laughter that needed no sound at all. Marcus discovered Evelyn spent her days helping children with disabilities express emotions through painting. She learned that Marcus coached a free weekend basketball program for kids from struggling neighborhoods because he believed every child deserved someone who believed in them. Neither noticed how quickly time disappeared. When Marcus walked Evelyn to her car, she thanked him for treating her like a person instead of a problem. Those words stayed with him throughout the drive home. Meanwhile, Vanessa waited eagerly for the disaster she expected. She repeatedly checked social media, hoping someone had secretly photographed an awkward moment. Instead, she received a simple text from Marcus thanking her for introducing him to someone genuinely kind. Vanessa stared at the screen in disbelief. Her cruel plan had somehow produced gratitude instead of humiliation. Over the following weeks, Marcus began learning basic sign language after putting Amara to bed each night. His fingers stumbled through unfamiliar movements, but he practiced until midnight because he wanted conversations with Evelyn to feel easier. Amara noticed and insisted on learning alongside him. Soon the living room filled with laughter as father and daughter signed simple words to each other while cooking dinner or reading bedtime stories. Evelyn slowly became part of their lives. She never tried replacing anyone. Instead, she encouraged Amara's love for painting and helped her discover confidence through colorful canvases. The little girl, who had quietly struggled with loneliness after the divorce, found comfort in Evelyn's calm presence. They created entire conversations without speaking a single word, proving that love often grows strongest in silence. Marcus also learned difficult lessons. Communication required patience, eye contact, honesty, and full attention. There were no rushed conversations while staring at phones or distracted replies from another room. Every exchange demanded presence. Ironically, the relationship became deeper than any he had experienced before because both people truly listened, even without sound. Vanessa watched all of this with growing frustration. She expected failure but instead witnessed happiness. Friends who once laughed at her jokes began complimenting Marcus's kindness. Some even admitted they admired how naturally he embraced sign language. The attention she wanted for herself slowly shifted toward the family she had tried to embarrass. Months later, Amara's elementary school announced its annual talent showcase. Students would present music, dance, speeches, and artwork celebrating diversity. Amara wanted to perform a short story entirely in sign language alongside Evelyn. Many parents questioned whether the audience would understand. Marcus encouraged his daughter anyway, believing understanding often begins with willingness. The evening of the performance, the auditorium overflowed with families. As Amara stepped onto the stage beside Evelyn, complete silence filled the room. Without speaking a single sentence aloud, the little girl signed a beautiful story about loneliness transformed by kindness. A narrator quietly translated for those unfamiliar with sign language, but many audience members found themselves watching Amara's expressive hands instead of listening to the words. Tears appeared across the crowd long before the performance ended. Among the audience sat Vanessa. She had attended expecting an ordinary school event. Instead, she watched her daughter proudly signing with confidence she had never seen before. She realized Evelyn had given Amara something priceless, not just another caring adult, but a language capable of reaching people beyond spoken words. After the applause faded, the school principal invited Marcus and Evelyn onto the stage. He explained that inspired by their example, the school planned to introduce beginner sign language classes so hearing and deaf students could communicate more easily with one another. Hundreds of parents stood and applauded. For the first time since the divorce, Vanessa felt ashamed instead of angry. She remembered arranging the date as a joke. Looking around the auditorium, she realized the only joke had been her own prejudice. The people she underestimated had quietly built bridges where she expected walls. Life continued changing in beautiful ways. Marcus organized community workshops teaching basic sign language to parents and children. Volunteers joined. Local businesses offered meeting spaces. Evelyn expanded her art therapy programs, welcoming deaf and hearing children together. Their small efforts gradually transformed into a movement promoting inclusion throughout the neighborhood. Marcus often reflected on how easily he could have walked away that first afternoon. One selfish assumption would have cost him not only an extraordinary woman but an entirely new understanding of humanity. He discovered that real love is not measured by convenience, appearances, or flawless communication. It is measured by patience, respect, consistency, and the willingness to meet someone where they are instead of demanding they become someone else. Nearly a year after their first meeting, Marcus surprised Evelyn by proposing during a community art exhibition surrounded by paintings created by children they had both inspired. He signed the proposal himself. His hands trembled with nervousness, but every movement carried genuine love. Evelyn smiled through tears before signing yes, and the crowd erupted into joyful applause. Even Vanessa quietly clapped from the back of the room. She approached Marcus afterward, not expecting forgiveness but hoping to offer an overdue apology. Marcus accepted it without bitterness, explaining that carrying resentment would only steal peace from everyone involved. His grace stunned her more than any revenge ever could. If this story has touched your heart so far, please support the channel by liking this video, sharing it with friends and family, subscribing for more inspiring stories, and telling us what lesson stayed with you the most. Your support helps these messages of hope reach people who may need them today. Special request: before the story ends, please leave a comment with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe compassion can change lives. Some people spend years searching for extraordinary miracles without realizing they often arrive disguised as ordinary moments. A blind date meant to humiliate became the beginning of healing. A cruel prank became the foundation of a loving family. A little girl gained confidence, a community learned inclusion, and a woman who once believed silence was a weakness showed everyone that love speaks loudest through actions. Marcus never tried to prove anyone wrong. He simply chose kindness when bitterness would have been easier, and that single decision echoed through countless lives. Long after the applause faded and the wedding photographs were tucked into family albums, the greatest victory remained invisible. It lived inside every person who looked beyond appearances, listened with their heart instead of their ears, and discovered that the strongest connections are often the ones that never need words at all.